What we're going to look at is, first off, what is it that causes performance problems in Windows? And we're going to find out how you find where those bottlenecks happen, and then how to fix them using both native Windows tools as well as some third-party tools that are available free of charge. Assumptions is that you're on the latest version of Windows 10 or 11. Also that you're on the latest version of the browser. No excuse not to be on that. From a security point of view, it's very important. And you can do a help out and check for an indication that you are up to date. Now, I have to give a little bit of caution here. If you follow some of the instructions that I have tonight, you are going to make changes to your computer. So potentially you could be removing programs, removing data files, and changing behaviors of both Windows as well as your programs. And hopefully all of that will be improving the performance on your computer. However, I do have to say that neither I nor the Ottawa PCU Group accepts responsibility for a negative outcome. Always a good idea to have a good backup of your computer, an image backup, so that you can recover from anything that goes wrong on your computer. Hopefully, you won't have any problems with the stuff I'm going to be showing you tonight, but always good to have a backup. So let's have some fun. So some of the universal tune-up options that are out there, and some of them are not free. More memory. If you have less than about 8 gigabytes of RAM, you'll probably get a performance boost with adding physical RAM to your computer. Faster storage. So if you have a slow hard drive, going to a faster hard drive, or even better, going from a hard drive to a solid-state drive, will improve the performance on your computer at a relatively modest cost. Now, some people look towards a faster video card to speed up their computer. And if you're a gamer, first-person shoot 'em up type games, not playing solitaire or something like that, or if you have a video editor or a high-end photo editor, you may get a benefit from having a faster video card. But I really caution people to go that route. Make sure that you really do need a faster video card, that it's going to make a difference. Otherwise, you may be just wasting money. Sometimes new computer is just what you're going to be needing. So if you try all of the things that I show you tonight and you're still not happy with the performance of your computer, and your computer is 5, 10 years old, it may be just time to get a new computer. It used to be that people recommended reinstalling Windows to get back performance that was lost, and that's really an old school solution. And since about Windows 7, this is really not that applicable. If you really want to reinstall anyways, make sure you have a backup of all your data, and really important, make sure you have the installation files and license keys for all your software. It used to be that we go down to Best Buy or whatever and buy a box with a DVD in it with a license key. And nowadays we just download off the internet and you get a license key sent to you in the mail. Do you know where all those license keys are? You're going to need them if you reinstall Windows and have to reinstall all your programs. There are a couple of ways that you can actually do a reinstall of Windows. If you really want to go down the route, reset this PC. We'll actually use the image files that are laid down by the manufacturer on the hard drive in a partition. And this benefit of using the Reset This PC is that it will keep any special drivers that your manufacturer, HP, Dell, whatever, Lenovo, has put on the computer that may be better performing than the standard stock drivers that come with Windows. You can also do what's known as Fresh Start, and that'll do a clean install of Windows from a file downloaded from Microsoft. So it will not restore any special drivers that come from the manufacturer. One of the benefits, though, is that you won't get any of the crapware that gets installed by manufacturers, such as a 90-day trial version of McAfee or things like that. If you're going to upgrade the hardware, especially in terms of memory and so forth, it's kind of nice if you actually know whether you can upgrade it before you open up the box. So Crucial, at their site, you can actually go on their site and you can scan your computer and it will tell you, especially if it's a name brand computer, it'll tell you what you have in your computer in terms of storage and memory, and importantly, what you can do in terms of an upgrade. So in this case here, this was an older system that I had, and it tells me that my maximum memory was 16 gigabytes and my current memory was 16 gigabytes. So there's two memory slots. Both of them had 8 gig RAM in them. So I couldn't upgrade the memory on this computer even if I wanted to. And it tells me my storage that I have on there. And then it tells me compatible memory as well as compatible solid state drives. Now, the suggested upgrades they have there, you can buy it from Kucherl if you want to. But if you take down that specification, DDR4, PC4, 21300, 16, 17, 17, you just print that out and bring it to your favorite computer store, they would be able to provide you with compatible memory. Okay, now let's look into performance problems on a computer. Now, so we're going to look at our main metrics, and these are 4 metrics that are provided to you by Task Manager. And I call them the hogs: CPU hog, disk activity, memory, and internet connectivity. Internet connectivity is really not usually an issue at all. I throw it in just because it's a metric that is provided by Task Manager. We'll look at web browser plugins and caches and what we can do about them. Malware, its impact that it can have on your computer. Disk clutter. Auto starting of programs can be a big issue on computers, so we'll learn how to deal with those. Drivers, which are pieces of software that talk to hardware, and how they can impact the performance of your computer. Disk indexing, and then crapware, and then we'll look at a bunch of third-party utilities that are available as well. So the main things that we're going to use to look at things mostly is going to be Task Manager. So a number of ways you can get to it. Right-click empty space on the taskbar and choose Task Manager. You can also hit, I find it easiest, Control-Shift Escape will load Task Manager. 3 keys going up the left-hand side of the keyboard. But however you get to Task Manager, that's what we're going to be spending most of our time on. So we'll be looking at several aspects of it. Processes, which will tell you the actual load that is going on at that point in time on CPU, memory utilization, disk activity, network activity, and GPU by process. So each running program or process on your computer. We'll look at performance, which will give you a graph of the overall utilization for each of those processes, or the sum total of the processes. App history, where we can see the load of CPU and network and so forth over time. And then we'll also go there to look at the startup programs and how we can deal with those. Resource Monitor, we're not going to have time to do that tonight. But one of the charms of Resource Monitor is that it gives you more deeper dive into disk activity. So it can actually show every file as being accessed for read or write. And so if you really need to dig down into detail, Resource Monitor can help you out. So let's look at CPU hogs. So a problem would be a program can demand a lot of processor time. Now, it can't demand 100% processor time by itself because Windows is a multi-thread, multi-user, or multitasking operating system. So it will take away control as it needs to. But if a program is wanting lots of processor time, it will end up getting a lot. And that can starve other programs on your computer so that they get very little time to do their own processing. So those other processes are going to slow down, and then your overall computer is going to be slowing down. So the solution on that is to track down those and kill them, maybe. Or you can only run those processor-intensive programs when you're not concerned about running other programs. A case in point of that would be, say you have an antivirus program. Well, it's going to be doing a lot of work if you have it scan your entire computer. Well, you don't have to run it while you're using your computer for other things. You can have it run overnight when you don't care how long it takes or how much processor power it actually takes. So to get to that, we go to Task Manager, and then we're going to go to the Performance tab. Actually, I'm going to switch right now to Task Manager. So we'll see live what we're actually going to do. So I'm going to go to the Performance tab. If you're in Windows 10, the tabs are across the top rather than down the side. So here we go to the Performance tab, and you can see our different metrics: CPU, memory, disk, and network. So we're going to start on the CPU, and here we see a chart of overall utilization. And if you happen to see it showing up something like that, where you have a whole bunch of charts, you're seeing each core and each thread as a separate chart. I find that to be not terribly useful, so I really like to have right-click, change graph to, and overall utilization. Now, you can see on my computer that we're running pretty low utilization, 13, 20%, things like that. I don't have a CPU bottleneck. Now, if I went in here and my chart was showing, um, all, well, my highlighter isn't working for some reason. That's fine. Um, so if it was showing up along right at the top here, then that would tell me that I've got a bottleneck. So my overall computing is suffering because of overall utilization is really, really high. So once you discover that you have a bottleneck, then you go to the processes tab, and then you have the metrics across the top, and then you have all of your individual processes running down the side. You can click on the CPU column, and that'll sort by CPU. So you can see right now, I'm just going to hold down the control key, which will freeze everything. Zoom Meetings is using the most CPU at 2.6%. So if I did have a bottleneck, I would probably have some program at the top that might be using 30, 40, 50, 60% CPU utilization. That's my bottleneck. Okay, so at that point, you've figured out that you have a bottleneck on CPU. You have a list of your apps and you've determined what app is actually causing the problem. So then what do you do about it? Well, if if I just close Zoom meetings, I would gain 2.6% and we would immediately finish off the meeting here. So this is where it comes down to the fact that you have to decide what are you going to do about it. If it's a program that you really want to be running, then maybe you just have to live with the fact that it uses a lot of CPU. There are other potential problems that you could just restart the program and it might be in some kind of strange state. And if you restart the program, it'll get out of that strange state or something like that. So again, you can just end the process if you don't need it running at that particular time. I suggest rather than right-clicking the program and choosing End Task, it's better to politely close the application if you can. So if you just go to the program and end it normally, then that's a better way to do it. This will just summarily terminate the process. If you have unsaved work, you'll lose work. You can uninstall programs you don't need. So if you have some program that is running there and it is using a lot of CPU utilization and you don't need that program, why not uninstall it? You can also right click on the header if you find that you don't know what a particular program is. If you right click on the header, you can actually add in these other columns of information, including command line, which will tell you, where the program actually loaded from. And so that might give you a clue as to what the program particularly is. You can also have process name, but usually in the name column is enough. And publisher might give you a hint as well as to where that program actually came from. So if you just see something like, I don't know what we have here, but app control or razor or something, whatever, knowing who published that particular program may help you track down where that program came from, whether you actually need it or not, and how you would go about uninstalling it. Okay, so the next one is disk activity. And so if we come back to here, and again, we go to the performance tab, we always start on the performance tab, and then you look at your disks. And I have a number of disks that are connected to my system right now. C drive is the one you're most likely going to be running into issues with. That's if you have Windows installed there. And you can see here, I have very little disk activity going on my C drive. So I do not have a bottleneck on there. However, if I saw going way up here, actually I can probably turn it on, yeah. If my disk activity was really at the top and it was pegged there, not just a spike that just immediately goes back down, but it was really pegged across the top, then you know that you actually do have a bottleneck when it comes to that. And so then, as soon as you know that, okay, we've got a disk activity bottleneck, then we go to the processes tab again, and then we go to the disk column and we click on that and it'll sort by the processes that are using the most disk activity. So once again, you can stop running that program. You could only run it when you're not concerned about other programs. So again, a scan of your hard drive with your antivirus program, it's going to have a lot of disk activity. Maybe it's better to run that overnight rather than while you're trying to use your computer. If you change from a hard disk drive to a solid state drive, you don't really get rid of the problem, but you mask it because a solid state drive will be much faster performance. So in all likelihood, you'll benefit from that. So I just went through on there the active time. Again, if it's about 25% to 50% above that, it's probably worth investigating what it is that's actually using all of that disk activity. And then you go to the processes tab and sort by disk utilization. This is one area where you can use Resource Monitor to dig deeper. So if you load it up, you can actually see the disk activity by actual file on disk that is being accessed. So that might help you track down as well what's going on the computer. So what you can do, uninstall unneeded programs that have a high disk activity. It's not likely to have that, but if you do see that some unneeded program is causing a lot of disk activity, good to get rid of it. Okay, there is one special case when it comes to disk activity, and that's when you have low memory. So Windows has a memory manager, and the way it works is that when a program wants to have some memory to do its normal operations, it asks Windows for memory. And Windows will happily just say, sure, we'll give you more memory. And then a program will ask for more memory. And Windows will say, sure, here, have some more. And then you load another program. It needed some memory. And Windows says, sure, here, have some memory. At some point, you're going to be running up against the amount of physical RAM in your computer. And what happens at that point is the memory manager swaps out least recently used programs to disk to make room for other programs or programs that are asking for additional RAM. That swapping out to disk is really, really time consuming. So the special case here is if you have very high memory utilization, your computer might be swapping out a lot. The solution at that point really is to get more physical RAM in your computer or don't run so many programs simultaneously so the memory manager doesn't have to do that swapping. Memory hogs. So some programs just use a lot of RAM. Browsers with a lot of tabs open will use a lot of RAM. Although modern browsers have a pretty good memory management built into them. And if you have unused tabs that are just sitting there not being used, they will unload out of memory. And then when you switch back to that tab, they will load that back in. So browsers are getting better in that regard, but still, if you have a lot of tabs open, it can still consume a fair amount of memory. Some programs have what's known as memory leaks, where they just keep requesting more and more and more memory, and Windows just keeps happily giving it to them. So if you have memory hogs, so again, we go back to Task Manager, we go to the Performance, we go to the Memory tab. Right now, I'm only using about half my RAM, so I'm in pretty good shape. Don't worry about if you have even about 60, 70% memory utilization. A lot of the memory that is being used will be used by Windows for its own purposes, for things like caching and things like that. If it is required for other programs, Windows will automatically give up that RAM to another program and forego that benefit of caching data or things like that. But as soon as you get up around 70, 80% memory utilization, that's when you have a bottleneck. So again, as soon as you get into that position where you do have that high memory utilization, then you go to the Processes tab and you click on Memory, and that'll sort by memory usage. And you can see I have Google Chrome using about 2.5 gigabytes of RAM. And I can actually expand this down and I can see why. I have a whole bunch of tabs as well as some applications running within Google Chrome. So what do? I could stop using Google Chrome if I don't, especially if I don't need it right then. I could free up 2.5 gigabytes of RAM. I could see if I could find another program that does the same thing as that, but uses less RAM. I could restart the program. This often helps with browsers. You'll restart the program, and even with all the same tabs open, you might be using half the RAM. Now, it'll probably start climbing again, but it might help you out in the short term. Don't run so many programs simultaneously or add physical memory. So we did look at this going into Task Manager. And again, always start on the Performance tab. Find out if you've got a bottleneck. And then if you have a bottleneck, then go to the Processes tab to find out what is causing the bottleneck. Internet connectivity, hogs, I throw it in because it's one of the 4 metrics. If I go back to the task manager, you can see here that Zoom meetings using 2.7 megabits per second, nothing. But if you have something that is using up a lot of internet connectivity, then it'll surface up to the top if you sort by the network column, and you can then decide what you want to do with it. What you have to decide really is like, first off, you can stop running a program if it's something running in the background that is just maybe changing your wallpaper every 5 seconds. Only run them when you're not concerned about other inactivity. Close unneeded tabs in the browser. Kick other people off your internet access if you're bogged down, that sort of thing. Okay, and again, your resource monitor. Again, start on the network tab. This is in Resource Monitor. You can actually get additional detail about the network activity if you want to dig a little bit deeper into what's really causing the problem. Okay, here's a real case. I was finding one day my Windows was coming really sluggish, very slow to respond. Even just clicking on things, it took several seconds to respond to mouse clicks. So I went to Task Manager and I looked, and it was I found that it was a bit of a bottleneck on the memory utilization, as well as CPU was pretty high for one application, Google Chrome. I had 27 tabs open. It was using 18.6% CPU utilization and 11.3 gigabytes of memory. I just restarted Chrome. I accessed all the same tabs, and it dropped to 7.8% CPU utilization and just over 5 gigabytes of memory usage. So this is how you can use that to look and see where those bottlenecks are and then decide what you want to do about it. And when I restarted, Windows regained its normal responsiveness. Okay, let's look to browser extensions, because browser extensions can be a cause of some headaches in performance. So you can get a badly written web browser extension that could cause problems on CPU, on memory, on disk utilization, and even if you have all well-written extensions, they can impact performance if you have too many of them loaded. And I think a lot of people have, a dozen or 2 dozen extensions loaded into their browser. So the solution is to disable or remove the extensions that are causing you problems. So in Microsoft Edge or in Google Chrome, you go to the meatball menu, which is the 3 horizontal dots, or the kebab menu, the 3 vertical dots, and that'll open up the menu. Select extensions, manage extensions, and then select the extension, and you can either turn it off or you can actually remove it. So what I suggest is, first off, turn it off to see if it's causing a problem. And then if the problem goes away after a period of time, then I would actually remove it and look for another extension that would do the same thing, or just forego that functionality. In Mozilla Firefox, you go to the hamburger menu, the 3 horizontal lines, go to add-ons and themes, extensions in the left bar, and then again, you can just toggle off a particular extension, or you can click on the 3 dots and choose remove if you no longer want to have that extension there. Web browser caches can clutter your disk up. So they can be quite literally gigabytes of files in the web browser cache. And it can slow down your computer. With modern day computers with high-speed internet connections, it can often actually be faster to re-download a particular web page or a component off of a web page than it is to actually get it off of your local cache. So solutions, you can empty the cache. I'll show you an easier way to do it all later on, but you can also set the cache to a more reasonable size in one instance. So Microsoft Edge, to clear the cache, you go to the meatball menu and you go to Settings, Privacy Search and Services, Clear Browsing Data, choose what to clear, Cached Images and Files. And be sure that you only choose cached images and files. If you want to clear the other stuff, that's fine, But from a performance point of view, they are not going to be impacting the performance of your computer. So cached images and files is the only thing that is going to potentially improve the performance of your computer. You can't set the maximum cache size in Microsoft Edge. Google Chrome, you go to the kebab menu, clear browsing data, and then cached images and files again. And you can't set the cache size through the interface. You can actually start Google Chrome with a parameter, which will actually limit the cache size, but you can't within the user interface. Mozilla Firefox, you go to the hamburger menu, settings, privacy and security, cookies and site data, clear data, and again, select just cached web content and click on clear. Now, Mozilla Firefox does allow you within the user interface to set the cache size. So in the address bar, you can type in about.config, and then you'll get a search box and you can enter in browser.cache.disk.capacity, and then you double click the box or click the edit icon, the little pencil you see, and then you can change the value to a maximum size you want for the cache. So it is in like 256 is actually 256,000 is 256 megabytes. So you have to do that calculation on your own. And what's a good cache size? Personally, I think that having a cache size of more than about 64 megabytes is probably a waste. But considering that some browsers allow cache sizes of go up to a gigabyte, you can experiment on your own, decide what's good for you. Okay, malware on your computer. It can impact performance and, of course, much more on your computer. Solution is to get rid of it. I do give a 1.5 hour presentation on protecting your computer. We go into a lot of detail on all of this, but I'll just flash through this. Make sure you're running antivirus. I'm not religious about what antivirus is best. Pick one, any mainstream antivirus. Keep it up to date. Have anti-spyware on your computer, ideally on access, which is going to protect you all the time of new spyware coming onto your computer. There are on-demand anti-spyware programs, and at least run them periodically. They all sell you on access anti-spyware if you want that as well. Vulnerability management of software is important so that you make sure that all your software is up to date from a vulnerability point of view, and a firewall which mitigates traffic coming in and out of your computer. So if you want free on-access antivirus, Microsoft Defender is perfectly good, built into Windows 10 and 11. It gets good reviews in the companies that do reviews of various antivirus software. Don't get into a habit of chasing what is the latest, greatest in terms of the highest score. Just as I say, pick one, keep it up to date. The other ones on the list, Avast and AVG, they're both owned by, I believe it's Gen owns both of them now, but they are kept as separate product lines. Bitdefender, one of the most respected antivirus programs around. They have a free version, and Avira has been around for a long, long time. I know some people are using it and are quite happy with it. You can also run on-demand antivirus, and this can run on top of your on-access antivirus, and it's good as a second check. So if you think that maybe your antivirus is missing something, then you can run any or all of these and do a point-in-time check to see if they find anything additional on your computer. There are free adware spyware resources. Microsoft Defender actually has spyware built into it as well. Malwarebytes is probably the current darling on the internet for its ability to deal with, in particular, spyware. ADW Cleaner and Spybot Search and Destroy and Adware, they've been around for a long, long time. For vulnerability management, Windows Update will handle anything from Microsoft. I do recommend that you periodically go into Settings, Windows Update, check for updates. The reason is that if the Windows Update process itself is failing, you might not be getting updates, you might not realize it. If you actually go and do a check for updates, you'll find out whether Windows Update itself is actually functioning properly or not. So doing that every couple of months is probably not a bad idea. Third-party software that's available out there. I think probably the best update manager right now is Uniget UI. Glarisoft and Patch My PC Home Updater, I've used those and they're pretty good. And the only true free vulnerability manager I know of is VulnDetect, and I've actually run it and quite happy with it. Firewall is important on your computer. If you want inbound only protection, Windows 10 and 11 is all you need. It's perfectly good for our firewall. If you do want a two-way firewall where it'll check outbound traffic as well as inbound, there are a number of free ones that are available as well. Okay, let's talk about disk clutter. So if the disk fills up too much, performance on your computer can really suffer as Windows tries to find some place to write data to, or if files get fragmented where they're not in a contiguous area on a spinning hard drive, the read-write heads can spend a lot of time searching around for the next part of a file or finding free space. If Windows gets low disk space, it starts to get really cranky and the performance overall can really suffer. So the solution is that get rid of the clutter. You can use storage, which built into the Windows operating system. You go to Settings, System Storage. You can double click an entry and get details about what that storage is actually using, how much, how it's using it. There are other categories that you can actually look for to say, okay, my documents, my pictures, my videos, and there's a whole bunch of things like that. One of the categories there listed is System and Reserved, and that's for things like virtual memory and system restore. You don't want to go into there and try to do anything. Other people is an interesting one. My brother, he lives in England. He periodically comes over and visits, and I set him up with an account on my computer. Well, I don't know what he's doing on that, what he's downloading, and what photos he's squirreling away on my computer. When he leaves, the easiest way for me to get rid of all that clutter is that I just delete his profile, and then that deletes all of the files that he had under there. Under storage, you can also do a cleanup now. So the one-click cleanup will delete temporary files not being currently used by other programs. It can empty the recycle bin for files that have been there for over a particular period of time, and you can choose the time period that you actually want. And you can have it delete files from your downloads folder that haven't been accessed over a specific specified period of time. You can go into settings, system storage, storage sense, and then you can configure storage sense and run it now. You can also configure it so that it runs by itself in the future. So you can choose when disk space runs low or on a set period, like once a week, once a month, things like that. And it'll have that where it'll automatically take care of the temporary files, recycle bin, and the downloads folder. You can choose each of those discretely. So this is how you set up the automatic storage sense. And there's where you go in Windows 11 and in Windows 10 to actually do it. Disk cleanup is an older tool, but it's still very, very useful. It's been around probably since Windows 95. So if you go to Start Windows Tool Disk Cleanup or Start Windows Administrative Tools Disk Cleanup, or if you just click the Start button and type in Disk Cleanup, it'll find the tool for you. When it loads, the default will be the Windows system disk. And when you first load it up, make sure that you click on Clean Up System Files. It'll restart Disk Cleanup in a new mode where it can actually clean up an awful lot more stuff. Okay? Some of the big candidates, previous Windows installations can be gigabytes. Windows Update Cleanup. Every time you run Windows Update on your computer, it squirrels away the old versions of files that are being updated so that if you want to roll back one of the updates, it can get that older file. Windows Update is supposed to do its own cleanup so that periodically it will clean up those old files, but I found that on some systems it doesn't seem to be running. And so if you go in, you might find that you have 10 gigabytes worth of files in Windows Update Cleanup. And so just make sure you select that one and do the OK on this, and it'll clean up those files. Windows Upgrade log files. I've never had anybody ask me for log files, so those are easy to choose to clean up. Temporary files and recycle bin. That's your call. Temporary files can actually go to sizable amount of files on your disk. Recycle bin, it's your call. I don't use recycle bin myself. I do shift delete on files, and that bypasses the recycle bin. But some people have a huge amount of stuff in the recycle bin, and you have to decide whether you really want that functionality there or you want to recover the disk space. Auto starting of programs. So if you have a program set to auto start when Windows starts, it can definitely impact the startup speed of your computer, but it can also impact the ongoing performance because that program is running in the background. Every program you install, it seems, figures that, oh, I'm the most important program, so of course I want to set it up so that it auto starts every time you start Windows, so that when you go to use me, then I'll load faster because basically I'm already loaded in memory. So solution is to stop the programs from auto starting. So let's take a look at that in Task Manager. So under the startup apps, you can see a huge number of programs that have decided on their own. I didn't install any of these into, I installed one of them into the startup. The others were put there either by Windows or particular applications, such as Razer App Engine. Well, that's for my mouse. Now, do I really need that to be running all the time? Probably yes. Snag Capture, that's my screen capture program. I definitely want it to be actually running all the time. OneDrive.exe, if I don't use OneDrive, I could just uninstall it if I wanted to, but I can also come in and I can just say, well, I might want to access it, but only when I need to. So I can right click on it and I can set it to disable. And then the next time I start Windows, OneDrive.exe won't start in the background. I can still start it manually, but it just won't be running in the background all the time. So you can go in and you can do that on any applications that you want. So here's where we just looked at browser assistant.exe, which is my Opera browser. I use it just seldom, and so I don't want it running in the background all the time. So I right click on it, set it to disabled, and it no longer will start up in the background. Drivers. Drivers are pieces of software that talk to hardware. So you have a driver for your screen, your keyboard, your mouse, your webcam, your printer. Every hardware device has a driver. It can have big impact on performance if they're poorly written, particularly video drivers. I usually don't worry about out-of-date drivers for things like mouse, keyboard, screen, stuff like that. But video drivers, I do keep up to date. So vendors do update them for bug fixes as well as performance problems. Windows Update will sometimes offer to give you updated drivers, including ones from companies other than Microsoft. And so usually if something shows up in Windows Update as a driver update, I'll accept it. Sometimes vendors will have updates that are not available through Windows Update. And this is very common with video drivers. You'll find that NVIDIA, they come out with new drivers every month. And so you can either visit the vendor's website and search for updated drivers, or potentially you can go and do it automated as well. To find out who the vendor is, you can go to the device manager. If you right click start, go to device manager, find the particular hardware device and double click the entry, and then you'll find out who the manufacturer was. And you can go to that website and see if there are updates available. Disk indexing. So disk indexing can use a lot of disk space, but it doesn't have a significant impact on performance. It only does indexing when your computer is basically sitting there idle. So, but the index can actually use significant amount of space on your drive. So if you do not search for files, contents of files, then you're just wasting disk space by having that disk index there. So if you don't want to be able to search on the contents of files, consider disabling the disk index. And it's a little bit convoluted. You go to computer management, go to your services, and then you stop the Windows search and set its search type to startup type to disabled. After you've stopped it, then you can delete the index. And so if you go to settings and search for Windows search settings, advanced index settings, advanced button, delete and rebuild index. It'll delete the index, but it can't rebuild it because you disabled it. Crapware, a lot of computer vendors will add all kinds of software onto your computer. Solution, get rid of any that you don't want. So this is best done when the computer is brand new, but even after the fact, if you've been using it for a period of time, you may be able to hunt down some of those apps that the computer manufacturer put on your computer and get rid of them. Some free advanced utilities. So sysinternals written by Microsoft's Mark Russinovich. He's one of the VPs at Microsoft. He's in charge of Azure. And he's written a whole raft of utilities that are under the brand of sysinternals. Some of the ones that can help you out to ferret out problems on your computer, auto runs. Task Manager can find some of the programs that are auto starting with your computer. Auto runs can ferret out all of the programs. So it'll find a lot more than what Task Manager will have. Process Monitor and Process Explorer can show you a lot of details about what's going on in terms of activity on your computer. TCP View can show your network connections, but if you want TCP View, I would actually suggest picking up Nearsoft Utilities Cur ports. It actually is a little bit clearer how to use it, and it can monitor your network connections. And if you're having problems with bottlenecks on your network, that might help you hunt down where the problem actually lies. Entropy 6, only for Windows 10 users, unfortunately. I've written to the vendor several times to ask if he's going to do one for Windows 11, and I never got a reply. But they have a program called Xmeters, which is really cool. What it can do is put on your taskbar those four metrics for CPU activity, storage, or disk activity, network activity, and memory utilization. And you can have it show as various ways. You can have it show with numbers, charts, bar charts. You can have different colors. You can toggle any of them on or off that you want or don't want. And the way I always used this when I was on Windows 10 was that if I noticed my computer was slowing down, rather than going to Task Manager, I could just glance at the taskbar. I might see, in this case, CPU utilization, 92%. Oh, I know I've got a bottleneck. So I then could go to Task Manager and further track down where the problem actually lies. Really, really nice little program. Didn't seem to have an impact on performance by having it loaded, but again, not for Windows 11. Here's the configuration where you can toggle any of them on or off, choose whether you want each of the individual items as a bar chart, pie chart, or text. And the refresh rate you actually can't change in the free version. I think you can pay a couple of bucks or something and get something that will allow you to change the refresh rate. Gen CCleaner. I use this all the time. And so it can improve performance by removing unnecessary files. They say they can remove errors in the registry, and you'll see the quote, registry cleaners don't fix problems. Microsoft says they cannot support any registry cleaner, and they cannot guarantee that they can fix anything that a registry cleaner does to your computer. The URL there gives you a pretty good lead into why professionals do not use registry cleaners. It can uninstall programs Windows can't. It used to be under Windows, there were a whole bunch of programs that you go to uninstall them and it would be grayed out for the uninstall. They've changed their habit on now. Most programs that are installed as part of Windows, you can uninstall, but if there's any that are still grayed out, the Gen CCleaner can help you get those uninstalled. It can remove browser plugins if you want, find duplicate files. Now, it can remove more than you want. These are the recommended settings I have. All of these will clean up an awful lot of space on your hard drive without any potential damage. So in every browser, I have it empty the internet cache and compact databases. On the system section, I have it get rid of memory dumps. I've yet to ever have a vendor ask me for a memory dump to help them analyze why a program is crashing. So they are just using up potentially many gigabytes of space on your hard drive. And checklist file fragments, they really exist only on fat file systems, but you can always get rid of them if they are there. Optionally, you can have it empty your recycle bin and temporary files as well. And then there's a custom clean section for applications tab. So again, any of the other browsers other than Edge Chromium that you have installed in your system, internet cache, and compact the databases. And then on your utilities, there's NVIDIA install files. They're up to about a gigabyte each now. And so you don't want those install files kicking around once you've successfully installed an update to the NVIDIA drivers. Some other free advanced utilities. So if you're looking to free up disk space, Tree Size Free, WinDirstat, and WizTree can help you track down where all your disk space is being used up. and then you can decide what you want to do about that. Duplicate file finders, CCleaner has one built in. Search My Files has a very good one. Awesome Duplicate Folder Finder is kind of neat in that it can actually find files that are similar to each other for images. So maybe you go in and you edit one, you just brighten it a little bit, or you maybe do a little crop. It might be able to find out that they're essentially the same file where no other duplicate file finder would actually identify it, and it may help you to clean up some of those. Be careful when you're removing duplicates. You can see the highlighted ones here. You know, they are actually, it's not really the highlighted ones, but the MSVCP 120.dll. I've got about 8 of them scattered across my drive. Can I remove any one of those? I don't know. There may be programs that expect to see a version of that file in that specific location, and the program may fail if you remove some of those duplicates. My rule of thumb is if I didn't put a file on my hard drive, then I don't delete a duplicate. This is something I came across just today, which is really cool. App Control. I think it just got released last month. It could be a replacement for Task Manager. It actually goes and gives you basically everything Task Manager has, but it also gives you historical data as well as real-time data for CPU activity, memory, GPU, disk, and it gives you temperature usage for the CPU and GPU so you can see if they're running hot. It can give you privacy alerts when a program tries to access your webcam, mic, or location. You can disable or block problem apps. And you can even go in by publisher and say, I want to disable or block all programs from a particular publisher. It can describe what apps do in very good plain language, and it's free of charge. They say that they are aiming in the future to bring out a more advanced version of the program that would be a paid version, but they are currently saying that the program as you see it now will always be available for free. I just installed it today, and so far I'm pretty impressed. Some possible extras that you can get with performance enhancements on your computer. If you have clogged vents, fans, and heat sinks, that can cause thermal throttling. So as they get clogged up with dust bunnies and things like that, the inside of the computer heats up, and all of a sudden your computer will start throttling itself down in order to keep itself alive. So I've heard use compressed air as opposed to a vacuum cleaner, but I've since heard that other people say that's not true. I just leave it there. It's something I heard one time. You could reduce animations. These are getting into really minor things. So if you go into control panel, ease of access, make the computer easier to use, make things on the screen easier to see, turn off unnecessary animation, and then that's a little bit less CPU that's being used just to animate things on your screen. And likewise, you can simplify visual effects, and you can go in, you can say adjust for best performance, and that again will usually free up a little bit of CPU activity. If you have a laptop computer and you want to, you can increase performance at the expense of battery life. So if you're on battery, typically it will go into a better a mode that will preserve battery life, which usually means that it's slowing down the CPU. Okay, so if you really want that power on the CPU, then you could go to a high performance or best performance, and then you will get a faster computer at the expense of your battery not lasting as long. Okay, just a quick advert for the Auto PCs group if you want. We meet every Wednesday. The second Wednesday of the month is our regular meeting night, and we have a specific topic in a speaker on. And then other Wednesday evenings we have Q&A sessions, and they're all on Zoom, and we welcome guests at any time. You can come as often as you want. The URL that you pick up at the for any one of our meetings, it's a static URL. Once you get it, all our meetings are on that URL. We do have a couple of member-only services, discussion forum available 24/7, as well as one-on-one remote assistance. We have that for members only. And anybody who happens to be already a member, and I know there's at least one person on the call tonight who is, don't pay your membership fee because we're extending membership for an additional year for all members in good standing. But if you are not a member and want to join before March 31st, pay your annual membership fee for $20 and you will get an additional year for free. And that's it. So that is the URL for the presentation as you saw tonight, and there's some additional information available in the deck as well. And that's my email address if you have any questions. And amazingly, I actually did finish in under an hour. So I will stop my share, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Questions, please.
Sorry?
Any questions for Chris?
It's too much stuff.
I like to give people their money's worth.
Well, you sure did. You covered everything. Actually, I think I have a small question. I don't know if it'll benefit other people, but on my browser, I have pinned several locations to make it easy for me to go to that website. It is not a tab, it's a pin.
Yep.
And when I use the new CC Cleaner, which they changed a lot on it, I thought unnecessarily to make it immensely more confusing to use. I went ahead and started doing the C Cleaner, and doggone it, it deleted those tabs, and I had to reinstall them.
Yeah.
How in the world do you know what it's going to do or not do?
CCleaner is its default configuration. You want to get off of it. I've never had it change what I had chosen. So I went in and I set it once. I do periodically check just to make sure, but I've never had it actually change what I chose. But CCleaner can definitely clean up an awful lot of stuff that most people do not want cleaned up. I really recommend that you do custom clean only and you choose the categories that you want cleaned up.
And how do you decide what those categories are that I want cleaned out?
The ones that I had on my slide, I think are pretty safe, and they will buy you the most in terms of performance on your computer.
Okay.
So,
could you put that on that one slide of the chat, please?
yeah, sure. Let me just see. Yeah, it'll be slide number 49.
Okay, thank you. Other people, questions? We had some hands up. Jolyn, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Chris, terrific information. Thank you so much. For years, you talked about making sure you have your keys, various system keys. What do you know about Belarc Advisor? I've used it for years and I really like it. It's BELARC.
I know of it. I've never actually used it for that because I do keep all of my license keys. For anybody who's got a password manager, that is a wonderful place to store license keys. Yeah, I've never run into that and needed it myself. I've heard other people have used it and recommended it. There are a couple of other programs out there. I can't remember the names.
Yeah, I see that David Smolinski also said it. Belarc is very good. It gives you information about your system, and it's a free option.
It's been around a long time. It's certainly a well-respected program.
Okay, Margaret Jean, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to say thank you very much, John. That was just great material. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you all for attending, and a special thanks for Chris for crossing the border. Let's give him a silent applause.
Thanks for inviting me.
It was really, really good. Thank you, Chris.